Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. And I am Alicia J. Alexander, MSL, a Master of Science in Leadership. I just went blank. I'm so sorry. I'm looking for the
That's all
word.
right.
Um, Coordinator. That's my word's not coming to me. But anyway, our coordinator for the Focus Forum 2026. Today I have with me our distinguished staff, Tara Utter, John Kennedy, and Dr. Danielle Lord. And soon we'll be saying Dr. Tara as well.
Yeah.
Just wanted to share that good news with the group.
Mhm.
So we're going to be talking about time management today and how effective processes are to manage time in our businesses or in our corporate or staff roles as leaders, as employees. Um, John, would you like to lead us off?
Well, yeah, just mainly the main thing is that it's changed so much. So probably 35 years ago, I was a certified trainer. I'm trying to remember the name of the program. We use a day timer. Remember the day timers, the
Oh,
little book there?
oh,
Mm,
Covey.
And
yes.
I probably gained like an hour and a half to 2 hours every day using that. Everything was one place. It was all tied in. I tracked everything. I planned everything. And I actually would go around training companies on how to use it. The problem was that when the world went digital, right? It's a different, now you have to have a computer. Now there's programs that are on phones, and you guys are probably more aware of those than I am. I know the main thing was basically, plan out your week, set your time, and honor your own time. So many of us as entrepreneurs, we put in like our time, right? Do the books, do the LinkedIn or whatever, and then we honor everybody else's time, but we don't honor our own time. And I think that's a
Very
big
true.
piece, is trying to find some accountability about honoring our own time. And you guys may have some different methods to do it. I know for me, it's got to go on my camera. It got to go on my calendar. Anything, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. Um, and then I try to stick to that. And then we were just talking about the Pomodoro method, which I don't know if your listeners are aware of, but one of you can explain how that works, because that's a very effective way to be more productive, I think.
Thank you, John. Uh, I'll pick up from there. The Pomodoro method, Carol, you can also chime in, and Dr. Danielle, is a great method for keeping you focused
Mhm.
on your task at hand. You set Pomodoro is Italian for tomato, so you have your tomato timer, and you set it for 20, 25 minutes thereabouts. Do your work, and then at the end of the time that you've set it for, you have a break. You actually get up from what you're doing on the computer or elsewhere and give yourself a break. That helps you to relax, to stay focused, and not relieve the pressure from yourself. And at the end of probably a 10-minute break, you go back to do what you were doing before. It's very efficient in helping you complete your task.
Yeah, I used it while I was writing several things, actually, just writing, because you have to get super focused. So I actually had found, and I can't find it now because I deleted it and I'm not even sure if it's still there, but there's an actual phone app that it's a little tomato timer. It's really funny. Um, but it's effective. You set your timer for 15, 20 minutes, just focus, 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 get up, take your 10-minute break, and then start again. And just, it's in a sense time blocking,
Right.
but it's time blocking against the clock, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, I mean, and it was very effective. You don't do your edits, you don't, you know, worry about what you're writing, you just write and then later in later sessions, you'll go back and edit.
Mhm.
But the initial is just write. Doesn't matter what you write. There was, and I don't remember if it was Stephen King or I can't remember exactly who the author is, but he uses a similar method when he's writing. He just writes. And if it's ideas or whatever, he just sits down and writes and writes and writes and writes. Doesn't write the story, so to speak, but he'll write whatever comes to his head. And usually a story will come out of it. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool that, you know, these famous authors are doing this also. And it's effective. It is very effective. It really helped me focus on that specific task, you know, whatever I needed to write. And I started doing it with other things that I needed to do. Okay, I need to return emails. I need to do this. I need to do that. Let's set the timer. Let's just focus and get it done.
Mhm.
And, you know, I've kind of since kind of waned away from it, and I need to go back to it because it was very effective. And with this new venture that we're starting, I need to be that much more focused because it's not just my schedule that I have to coordinate. It's two other people's as well. And so we have to kind of keep tasks at the front and going and moving. And so there's a lot of organization and moving parts that goes into everything. So yeah, it would be good to go back to that. I think, you know, this is a good reminder.
Well, and you know, one of the interesting things about that from the neuroscience perspective is it depends what kind of work you're doing, but a lot of people, they get absorbed in that work and then they don't take that break. That break is really important. One, it's a time to look forward to, but when you, especially if you intense work for say 25 minutes, 30 minutes, if you leave the work you're doing unfinished during that 5 to 10 minute break, your brain's going to put everything together that you need to. So all that intense work really solidifies then in the downtime. And then you have this feeling of expectation. And so your chances of picking up and finishing what you left unfinished are much greater after a little bit of a break like that.
Which is why we always have our best ideas, you know, in the morning when we wake
Yeah,
up, right?
right.
There's the shower thoughts.
In the
Right.
shower, right, that's
Have
right.
exactly
Yeah.
that time to do
Right.
that. Yeah.
Right.
Better in the shower than at 2:00 in the morning. And then of course you
Yeah.
can't get back to sleep. But.
Yeah.
Right, right.
I kept a notebook by my bed for a while because those 2:00 in the morning thoughts
Yeah.
were waking me up.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so guilty of the 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning wake up because I'll wake up, read a scripture, and thinking, oh, I'll just go back to sleep. But I'm also guilty because between 2 and 3 are my favorite preachers, Dr. Bill Winston and Dr. Mark Hankinson with his wife Trina. So I'm like, okay, I get that. Go back to sleep. You know.
Well, it's good to have a notebook with you at night too, so you can write those ideas down. Because how many times I think, well, I'm going to remember this tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's
Right?
it's gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really, as you said, that's when your brain, you know, when you sleep, REM sleep especially, that's when all these connections are made and solidify for the day. That's just why obviously enough sleep is so important. Because that's when your brain puts, it's like, you know, when you go, if you ever work out and lift weights, you need that off day for all the muscle fibers to regrow and create. It's the same thing with our brains. We need that downtime.
It reminds me of when I was teaching the innovation course when I was a university professor for 13 years and was the lead in the Masters of Leadership and MBA program. And the university required the MBA students to take the class, which I thought was brilliant. And it was an elective for the Masters in Leadership. But one of the things that they teach in the creativity and innovation space is one, the tired, stressed, frustrated, anxious brain cannot be creative, just period, flat out. And so, but we have so many folks in the business side of our organizations that are those left-brained individuals. They want to get to a conclusion and to task and productivity, very quickly. And so they'll oftentimes make that decision in the isolation of the moment rather than allowing themselves to take the space and the time to sleep through something and allow the other side of the brain to kick in. And that works for those of us that are right brain too. We need both sides of our brain processing and solving the problem. But so love the class, love teaching the class. And it was just such an interesting experience to watch a lot of these left brain folks come to this space and understanding of, wow, this is much deeper and much richer than just looking at data on a spreadsheet. But and how we include other people in the process, how failure really helps us to get to that space of creating something better. But then to what Tara, you were talking about, that deep writing, that was actually one of the things that was a requirement in the class, was even if you couldn't think about something that you wanted to write about, you had to write it. You had to have 20 minutes of forced writing time, even if it was just, I don't know what to write about. I don't know what to write about.
Yeah.
I don't know what to write about.
I've had those days too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
But I like
writing.
the fact the Pomodoro method allows for rest, because when I look at Hebrews 4, not to bring in religion, but I do want to express this faith. Hebrews 4, 9 and 10 says that I'll say it succinctly, that there is rest for God's people, and we are God's people, and we should do like he did. He rested on the seventh day. So why do we feel the pressure to have to keep going? Rest is part of being like God.
Right.
You know, so that's another interesting piece around being able to be creative, Alicia, is that rest. And from the research and the innovation side of things, they have found that the more CEOs or executives put into the productive time, I have to be productive, I have to show my worth, and the only way I can really show my worth is through productivity. And so you have these executives who are putting in 70, 80 hours a week. And the research is very clear that, again, the tired, stressed, frustrated, anxious brain cannot be creative. But what's so interesting, now I haven't verified this is just kind of my own anecdotal observations around this, and I often use Tesla and Edison in this example, is that when executives become pressured into trying to come up with a big new idea or something that's going to take the company in a different direction, they oftentimes go to the dark side because they're trying so desperately to find a solution that's unique and creative. They end up going kind of rogue and dark. So it's just such a testament to, one, the importance of time, or the importance of rest as a use of time, a good use of time, and that we are, have this opportunity to go to the good side or to the dark side. And it's really interesting to see all of the CEOs and executives that actually have made bad decisions because they were not giving themselves that grace and gift of rest.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. That's very important.
Yeah, you can use Disney in there for that, that example also. I mean, they were, during COVID and whatnot, some of the decisions that they made then to try and be whatever it was they were trying to be, they've since reversed because they weren't good decisions.
No.
And they were made out of haste and out of pressure, as opposed to, what needed to be made, if that makes any sense,
Yeah.
without getting political and
Right.
That it's that compulsion. We have to make a decision and make it now.
Yeah.
And that force of that pull force instead of peace. It's better to work under peace. And if you as a leader don't find how to enter the peace, my recommendation is pray for it.
Nope, that's a good recommendation.
Praying
Or
is a good word
some,
to
yeah,
rest.
or some type of meditation, or just removing yourself from the situation even too.
Right.
And, you know, to the scripture that you read, just allowing yourself to be human for a few minutes and give yourself
Yeah.
that break.
Yeah.
I mean,
You
and
know,
that's,
whether that comes through prayer or meditation or,
Mhm.
yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's when I come up with some of my best ideas is during prayer and meditation, because I'm kind of taking a step back and going, okay, God, what do you want me to do right now? Because my
Yeah.
brain is going crazy
Mhm.
and I'm not thinking of what I need to be thinking of. I'm not focused where I need to focus. You know, all of these things that, you know, life throws at us. And this is, you know, I take that time to just kind of step back and go, okay, just be. Don't
Mhm.
try and be anything or anywhere, just be, you know, present in the moment, and, you know, just kind of meditate on a blank space, you know, because
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I can get so many things going on in my head. I can do this and I can do this and I want to go over here. And, you know, with the things that we've got going on right now, it's like, okay, I've got all the hats on except for the hats that are outside, because those hats are physical and not my thing.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Right.
But, you know, the marketing, the software, the finances, the, you know, we're doing what equipment and what's the thing going to look like, and I need to do this and I need to, you know, I've got all these different things going on and being thrown at me on top of trying to finish my dissertation. And, you know, how am I going to market the company? And oh wait, no, I've got to go do the dishes, and I've got laundry to do, and all of, you know, all of it is just,
Yes.
you know, so there's at least every other day, at least I have to kind of step back and just sit in silence,
Yeah, and
Mhm.
you
plan
know.
ahead. So it's interesting. So two of the basic cognitive skills we train in our program are pattern recognition and anticipation, which is exactly what you're talking about. And this is something you want. You're sitting there. So if you can pick up patterns faster, you're going to know when you're doing the same thing over and over again, right? And anticipate what's coming ahead. And that's something, you know, even just sitting there and, as you said, Tara, just thinking ahead of everything, find the patterns. If you can get all that in your head first before you go to execute, right? So you think about everything you've got to do. We're talking about time management. Think about everything you've got to do, and then sequence it in your mind first. Okay, so I got to do the dishes. Okay, well, I've also got to, you know, take some out of the freezer. Okay, so let's put them together and let's put them over here after I do whatever you're doing, right? So you're outside. So if you can manually or mentally up in advance sequence, we call it break it down, think it through, and execute. So you break down the different components, think through what you want to do with it, and then hold it in your memory and anticipate. So when that time comes, you just execute. That can help a lot with time management. Kind of what you're saying. If you take that time first and consciously and intentionally think about everything you have to do in the next hour or the next day for the rest of the day, think it through first and then just flow with it, it becomes a lot more efficient.
Yeah. Now I found that for, you know, I do that visualization type, you know, okay, when I
Yeah.
go to the kitchen, I need X, Y, and Z. So I didn't know that that's what it was called, but that's, you know,
Yeah.
but I tend to, like, at the beginning of the week, for me, I write everything down that I need to get done. I make it an actual list, and, you know, it's a fluid list. Things get added to it. Some get pushed off
Sure.
to the following week. And then I put things in my calendar and go, okay, these are what I have to get done this week. Okay. Okay. And so I can actually look at my calendar. I have it on my phone, but I have it written down because I'm old school. I have to write it down. And, you know, so I have it in multiple places where I can, at a glance, it's right here, it's right here.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You know, I know exactly where it's at. Here's my pile of my tasks. Here's the list of the tasks. Let's coordinate and get it done. You know, so yeah, there is a lot, but there's a method to the madness.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and a lot of times you can coach yourself. So as you're doing that thing, I mean, you could be like, like coach said, okay, so what do you really need to accomplish? Who is it, Musk, I think, or I don't know, Jobs? Three things, right? Three big things to accomplish every day,
Hmm.
and everything else falls into place. And so as you're planning your day and prioritizing, you can constantly ask yourself, well, how important is this really? What can I do before, like project management, right? What are the predecessors? What do I have to do before this? What do I have to do before that? And think through. And one of the things we find is if when you do that, you think it through, be very aware of your feelings.
Hmm.
Right. So if you are feeling a little bit of stress, it means you're probably missing some kind of information. Right. So like if you're planning before you go to bed, right? Okay, so I'm going to do this, thinking through that I'm going to brush my teeth, and something doesn't seem right. You back up and you say, oh, wait a minute, I need toothpaste. Right. So then you take that little bit of information, add it to your process. And then when that feels really smooth when you're thinking it through, then you're probably in the right spot and being present while you're doing it, like you mentioned.
So I'm probably the odd man out here because I was not familiar with the Pomodoro method,
Hmm.
but
Oh.
I tend to write in that same fashion. I just call it kind of get it all out on paper and then find big blocks that are meaningful to me and rearrange everything. But the other way, I'm probably the odd person out here, is that I tend to go with where my energy is. And so if my energy, I have things that are on my calendar, right? At some point I have to stop and go and meet somebody or go to a chamber lunch or whatever the situation is, but I'll sit and write for hours without taking a break. But so I tend to follow my energy. And I'm fortunate because I am self-employed, so I can do that. But I think
Yeah.
about all the times when I was employed and I couldn't function that way. And how many
Right.
times you sit at the keyboard thinking, okay, write something again, even if it's, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. Right. Because when you're employed, you can't, or you don't always have the opportunity to follow your energy. You
Right.
have to
Right.
follow a schedule that somebody else has oftentimes given you. And so
Right.
I wonder how much more productive our organizations would be if we gave people a little bit more latitude to say, where's your energy today? And
Yeah.
and
Well,
I
I
have
think,
found
yeah.
the last couple of days, while I've been working really diligently on getting a couple of projects finalized, and I need to slow my squirrel brain and say, I'm not doing anything new right now. I need to finish what I have and I need to focus on those things. But the last couple days, I've found myself really wanting to go outside and be out in my yard. And I think that's my body's way, my brain's way of saying, you need to kind of re-energize and you need some downtime. And the best way to get that downtime is to go outside or get up and tackle the dishes and the laundry and some of
Right.
those other things,
Right.
because that is, you're still being productive, if you want to call that productive, but it's a way to give your brain the space to say, just take a break for a few minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I think that to support you, Dr. Danielle, is to support what you're just saying. Sometimes you feel that not up here, but in the center of your core, it's time to just go away from what you're working on at the moment. And in my world, I call that the Holy Spirit leading you to help you retain who you are, your personhood. Because if you keep going and going, I mean, it just weakens you, and that's not good. So,
I agree.
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that is not often given to us in our modern organizations. So, and I continue to blame scientific management.
Well, you're right. It's not. And it's, that whole overload mentality or silent quitting and all that stuff that's going on.
Right.
If during these management training interventions, these are things that we can teach them as,
Yes.
as the researchers, as the consultants, you know, each person is different and they can't treat every employee with the same style.
Yeah.
You know, everybody has a
Absolutely.
different learning style,
Yep.
which creates a different working style. You know,
Absolutely.
Indeed.
so
Yep.
we can't, there's no way to, you know, mirror every single employee. You're just going to fail. You're not setting your employees up for success. You know, you can say, okay, you have this big old goal and this is how I want you to do it. That's micromanaging. It's here's your goal. How do you want to do it?
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, work
Yeah.
backwards. Do you want to tackle, you know, you got to let them have some sort of, you know, freedom, some sort of control over their projects.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know,
So
John,
true.
absolutely check in, absolutely be there to assist if needed. But, you know, to micromanage, you're just setting your staff up to fail.
Right.
100%.
well, John, I can hear the neoplastician in you as soon to be Dr. Tara is speaking. So what is your take on that? Because I do have something that I want to share after you. What's your take on that, John, as a neuroplastician?
As far as what we're talking about here, as far as the
What soon to be Dr. Tara just said.
about, okay, say it again. Say it again. Sorry.
No, that was so
I've been
profound.
saying a lot of great stuff.
I was just hearing the
obviously,
neuroplastician in you is coming out, you know?
well, it's always thinking, that's why I'm always thinking about how we do, you know, what we do, because everything we repeat is changing our brain. And so, so just tell me again specifically what that was, because I could comment on everything we're talking about.
In a nutshell, it was during, you know, leadership interventions, teaching them to give their employees space to
Oh,
do
right,
things
okay.
in their
Yeah.
own way,
Right.
because having them, you know, duplicate a system isn't working for everybody.
Yeah.
And it creates that quiet quitting and just the overwhelm and all of that makes production ineffective.
No, and I agree. So again, everything we do, we repeat. So first of all, the leaders have to be able to get control of their own. You know, they need to be the point where they're not overstressed, right? They're not overwhelmed. They're just throwing stuff out there. I think one of the things we're all experiencing or seeing is the newer, younger generations. They don't take instructions the way we did, right? And they have to be very aware of that. You know, quiet quitting. It's like that stare and all. I mean, it's like. It's a totally different. So the most important thing leaders need to do is find something to keep their staff engaged, right? Engaged. So, you know, if you're gonna have a business meeting, make sure there's some kind of activity everybody can do together. I mean, obviously our program does that, but any kind of program where they start off engaged, they're laughing and they're focused, and then they're in a much better place to receive whatever their leader is telling them to do. Accountability is really important. And again, you all know the best leaders are the ones that say, okay, so here's your do. How can I help you? Right. One of the biggest mistakes leaders do is they pass everything off and they're not there to provide the support they need. And a lot of times good meetings are that, okay, so, you know, here's your task for next week. Let's check in on your task from last week. What can I do to help you accomplish what you need to accomplish?
Yeah.
And I think that support structure is really important. And again, that's the leaders that have to train themselves to be able to do that so they can train their people.
Yeah.
Oh, this opens up a whole can of worms for me, but this is so much of what I do. But yeah, it's, I think when I hear you talking, John, I hear what comes to mind for me. And what I'm always talking about is there's this balance or the tension of ego and fear that exists oftentimes in duality amongst leaders, managers, especially those who have not been well prepared, which we see all the time in organizations. It's you're a great individual contributor. No, we're going to promote you. And what happens is we get into what I call role compression. So when we get into that state of stress that we've all talked about in this conversation, what do? I revert to what I know. And so I become a better individual contributor because that's what I know. I don't know how to manage, or I don't know how to lead because I was never developed. So now I'm going to become a better individual contributor, and I'm going to have, out of that tension of fear and ego, now I'm going to take control of something, which generally then, Tara, comes to the micromanaging piece that you were talking about is no, don't do it this way. You changed the font. Oh my God, you changed the font. The sky is falling and the world's going to come to an end.
Right.
Right.
Well,
Well, it's interesting in corporate America. If you remember, there was a period up until a couple years ago where all these middle managers were fired just to save budgets. Well, those are the people that were the ones who were mentoring and leading these new employees, right? So,
Yeah.
and now companies are expecting AI to take their place. That'll never happen. I mean, so yeah, exactly what you said.
To comment on that, John, AI is a great tool. And as I've been using it more and more, it's a great assistant, especially if you programmed it correctly, but it can never lead. And that's where leadership needs to really understand their role in any organization. You are the leader. You command AI. AI does not command you. How do you communicate that to your staff? By leadership. Yesterday, I had the privilege of unveiling my organizational excellence model system. And it was a great time to share it with others. Now that it's out there, I'm going to be sharing more and more with it. But the thing is, the combination of neuroscience, using your brain, understanding the brain, having systems that allow for brain activity, authentic appreciation, understanding your people enough to know, okay, so Dr. Danielle likes to receive gifts. She's the tangible gifts person. Tara likes to have a good word. You can do her anything, but as long as you give her a good word, she will feel appreciated. John is someone who likes to get tasks done on time. So acts of service, perfect for John. Those are just 3 of the 5 organizational leadership, authentic appreciation examples. The other 2, words of affirmation, acts of service. Actually, the whole 5 is words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, tangible gifts, and physical touch. And as I've always said, physical touch in the workspace is a good firm handshake, a pat on the back, a high five, and a fist bump. So understanding that, we need to know our people enough to say, we know which one applies to which person. And that's why I was using that example the way I did.
100%. And that is such a huge missing piece in our organizations today, because it's all been about the productivity, not about the relationship. And you got to have the balance. It can't be, you can't go 100% relationship. You've got to have the balance.
Absolutely. Because with that balance, the productivity will improve if you have good relationships. If you pull, I mean, I was a district manager for a small retail company for a little while, and my store, we over exceeded our expectations, or corporate expectations, by quite a bit, because I pulled the team together, go, okay, here's our goals for the month. How are we going to achieve them? Not how am I, or how are you? How are we going to achieve them? What do we want to do? Do we want to have specials? Do we want to have a little contest and send someone to the movie on a movie date? How are we going to do this? And it was, that's how my husband and I have led our ministries as well. It's not our ministry. This is, you guys are the church. It's not just us. We're not a building. We're a team, and so that's how we've always been successful, is by not making it about us. And I think that's where leaders have, get that ego. I'm the leader. You should obey me. You should listen to me. And you can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and be
it's that-
productive at the same time.
It's the confusing. It's the confusion of title with leadership, right? It's, oh, I've got a title now, I'm therefore a leader.
Right.
Yeah.
Title
No.
doesn't make you a leader.
No,
No.
not at all. Not at all.
And that's still hotly debated.
No, you're right.
Why?
It is.
I don't know, but it is.
I mean, I've learned more from bad leaders
Yeah, exactly.
than,
Right,
than I
right.
have in my education.
Exactly.
That is how not to be. So,
exactly.
Well, I think,
Yeah.
leaders too, as you guys are saying, that they need to be in such a mindset that they can draw the best out of their people and hold them
Mhm.
accountable. I might have mentioned when I did consulting in the past, I was brought in to rescue troubled projects. So these were all the smartest guys in the company. They had the problem they couldn't figure out. And so they brought me in, and I was fortunate together. But the first thing I did was I'd meet with the team, and all of them a lot smarter than I were. And I would tell them, I said, "Look, you guys are a lot smarter than I am. You know what we need to do. I'm just going to get us across the finish line." So then we kind of dissect it. What do you think needs to be done? And when someone says, "Well, we should do this," I said, "Okay, how can I help you do that?" Right? Because typically you get in a group, they want to pass. I didn't want to do all the work. I couldn't do it. I want to empower them to do it. And then we check in with it. And it was amazing because when they realized that it was their idea that we were going to implement and they took ownership for it, and then everybody else supported them in it, everything came together. We were able to really accomplish some amazing things in a very short amount of time because we removed that resistance.
I think, did you find, John, that a lot of that resistance came in the place of a lack of understanding or lack of curiosity as well from the so-called leaders, right?
Yeah, good point, because they were kind of stifled, right? They weren't allowed to do the creative things they wanted. They weren't.
Yeah.
I mean, and so my background really was process management, but re-engineering around the capability maturity model. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It was actually, you're familiar with Danielle. And so basically you have different levels. And a lot of companies, so the lowest level is ad hoc. Everybody comes in, they try to do what they think is right. It could turn into a mess. Now, one of the problems is that the second level, repeatable, is where companies will have mentors come in and try to, mentor a younger person on how to do it. And that sometimes could also be a disaster, right? Because a couple of reasons. One, mentor-mentee relationship might not be good, but now you've given your best people another job for no extra money. Now they have to like almost babysit. So that doesn't always work well. The third level is always the most important, where you act the define level. You define everything that needs to be done. Take your best people, they make even checklists, hand it off to a new person. Now the new person has the backbone of what they need to do. So they follow it. They're learning about the company. They're feeling productive. You've freed up your good people now, who we're talking about here, to be more creative and proactive because they're not burdened by all these mundane tasks. So creativity improves, and then the younger people learn, and then it's a process. So you can manage it, and you can improve it. But that always worked really well because everybody understood what they were supposed to do.
Yes.
And you freed the people you want to be creative. You've given them an opportunity now to create new innovations for the company.
So, two things I would add to that. Now, I learned about process very early in my career and how important good documented processes were. So I went to work for a medical equipment manufacturer. The owner had a patent on a blood glucose meter, and they got a whole bunch of capital funding to get this company up and running. The old curmudgeonly engineer who was running, the director of engineering, told the other engineers that nobody else needed to know what made this product unique. And so that was the very thing that was the downfall of this company, because nobody else in the organization understood what it was that was so unique and special about this product. So trying to have some brevity here in the story, but it was a classic example, one, of isolation, two, lack of communication, and three, lack of documented processes. So moving on to my next medical equipment manufacturing position, because that one went defunct and the owner had to sell his patent to pay back the capital investment that had been put into the company, all because these engineers were told not to tell anyone. Nobody else needed to know about this.
Right.
So
Right.
now moving in, I'm at a medical equipment manufacturer again. We're going through ISO 9001. Everything had to be documented.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
And it was a really fascinating process. And I love the documentation for the very fact, when John, that you just talked about, was it makes it very clear what needs to be done, what right and good looks like. There's no question about the expectations. The other piece to that is there is no conflict. I mean, you can still have interpersonal conflict. It bubbles up, right? But if Tara's telling me to do something one way, and Alicia is telling me to do it another, and John's telling me to do it another way, now I have this massive amount of conflict that really has no resolution. But when you've got those processes documented, it's very clear, it's very defined, all the tools are right there. So the other piece I would add to that is getting back to, when do we have that sense of over managing something versus just having this kind of ad hoc free for all? The method that they used in the ISO work, International Standards Organization, for anyone who's not familiar with ISO, is there are 5 key components when you have to have really tight processes. And I always use the example of, not that I eat McDonald's, but if I get a McDonald's Big Mac on the West Coast and I drive out to Alicia on the East Coast, and I stop at McDonald's all along the way and I get a Big Mac, it's going to be exactly the same. Because it's a quality issue and it's a customer experience issue. So there are 5 places where you have really good documentation and it's really, really tight. Other than that, if it's not documented, it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Make it however you want. So you've got your defined areas: quality, finance, customer experience, safety, and compliance. Everything else is your own peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
And it's interesting you mentioned that, because I worked for a company where I helped them, but we called ParaNet. We actually developed a process maturity assessment. This is for IT organizations. And part of it was because this is the problem I found when I was working with Six Sigma and others, is everything had to be defined process, right? So what we did is we always start with a maturity assessment. Maturity meaning how much you rely on process as opposed to people, because more process, better for people. But basically, we had to assess how important it was too, right? Otherwise, you know, the 80-20 rule. Otherwise, you spend 80% of your time on 20% the work instead of other way around. And that was always interesting. We come up with these different spider graphs of where it should be and where it was. And then based on priority, you always focus on the high priority stuff too, because otherwise you get so buried in the process, you're making more efficient. Like, what is it Elon Musk says? There's nothing more inefficient than making something that should be eliminated more efficient, or something like that, right? So that's a big piece of it too.
Yeah, well, we've done it because we've always done it this way. We can't.
Right. Exactly.
So where's the innovation when you do it that way?
Yeah, it is not. You need to look for innovation.
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
You need a little disruption sometimes,
right?
That will take you to
I
a new
totally
level.
agree.
Yeah. No, I agree. And, we found this in the hospital all the time. Well, we have to do it this way because compliance tells us that we have to do it this way. Yet the compliance mechanism changed, but the process never did.
Right.
Well, and it's interesting. So, and I'd love to learn more about your course on innovation, Danielle, because I've always had trouble teaching, but I've innovated so many things over my career. And to me, a lot of people think innovation is creation, but to me, it's almost more adaptation, right? It's like, it's like the Apple was an adaptation of Xerox's, graphical interface. Windows and that. So a lot of innovations, I think, and that's why you want people to be free to do this creative thinking we're thinking about. Hey, it works over here. What would it take to make it work over here? And that's how we can create innovation.
That's really good. That's very good.
Yeah.
Well,
Lots of nuance in all this.
We've talked about a lot of subjects today.
Yeah,
And
a lot more
I
than
like
time
the
management.
I like the flow of it though, because I anticipate the audience really gathering some helpful suggestions on time management, on respecting your teammates and your staff in a way that you can know what types of appreciation is they want in their lives, to feel valued, to feel part of the organization. It's not just come to work, do the assignment, leave. That becomes very disparaging after a while. 3 months, that 90 days, if this is all I get, why stay? That type of thinking sets in, and if it's as a man think it, so is it, so if we let negativity come into the thought life while at work, what are we going to get? Innovation, adaptation, or silence?
Yeah.
Apathy.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm hoping the audience leadership, nudge, nudge, really gets it. We're helping you in your organization, guys.
Yeah. And any one of us would love to continue the conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excellent. So speaking of any one of us, let's start. Dr. Danielle, share what you do and how we can help this audience.
So I primarily am a academic researcher. I came to the conclusion one day that I enjoyed it and I wasn't going to have a PhD that went to waste. So it's just what a lot of people say. So I primarily research how employees, what it is they experience when they come into a new organization or role. And so a lot of my research is related to physicians and what they're experiencing as they transition into leadership roles. And I'm just starting another round of research on that very topic. But with that in mind, what I do is I take that research and I produce products that help organizations create healthier cultures for happier employees. And I really love the way that this transcends more broadly than just the organization, because when we have happy employees, we bring happiness and harmony into the home. And from the home, we bring that into the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, so basically, as a neuroplastician, that just means I change people's brains. So all that work I did, process reengineering, I actually got an opportunity to create the world's first applied neuroplasticity program for the Marine Corps almost 20 years ago now. And what made it unique was I took that ability to improve processes, operational processes, and applied it to the brain to improve cognitive processes. And then the actual medium is something called based on robust stimulation. So according to the military, it's the only program of its kind in the world that does it this way. And our latest research is just blowing me away. It's showing why this works. So we can actually rewire the brain in beneficial ways starting immediately, not just in a day or a week or a month. And so when I work with people on that, because everything flows through the brain, now I get to work with not just entrepreneurs, but professional athletes and salespeople on one side. But really rewarding part is we're doing a lot of work helping lately kids with autism, but ADHD, dementia, strokes, any type of cerebral palsy, even any type of mental, physical type issues, by rewiring the brain and including the outside peripheral nervous system as well. The connections become stronger and faster. We can correct, rewire around damage. I'm just blown away lately by some of what's been happening. So that's what I do, basically. I help people by helping their brain. I guess that's one way you could go, which has impact on their whole body.
Yeah, that's our central processing center. So
yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
Soon to be Dr. Tara.
So what I do is I help individuals and organizations strengthen their leadership from not just the outside, but from the inside, developing confidence, hope, optimism, perseverance, and purpose through my proprietary program called the CHOPS method. So it turns personal growth into practical action so that people can lead with resilience and clarity and make a lasting impact, not just fix it now. So that's what I do.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for sharing, Dr. Danielle, John, soon to be Dr. Tara. As I was stating earlier, I just unveiled the Organization Excellence Model System from Make a Difference Consulting, which is my firm. And I am endeavoring to start beginning next Monday, really bringing it into the workplace of various companies. And I'm looking forward to sharing it more on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, not necessarily Facebook, because that's more of a family community, but I will be posting things that will allow you to view on Facebook as well. Our YouTube, which is YouTube Alicia J. Alexander 580, houses all the various focus forums from the very beginning, which was April 17th. We have April 17th, May 1st, May 15th, and now May 29th housed there. So it is public, and you can definitely visit that at any time to get information from the Focus Forum. So thank you for viewing us, and thank you for being part of our audience. We appreciate you, and we thank you for being here. Have a great day.